Welcome to Urban Life Conversations, where we talk about knowing God, finding freedom, discovering our purpose, and making a difference in the world.
Well, welcome to Urban Life Conversations. My name is Warren, and I'm one of the hosts here, and we talk about knowing God, finding freedom, discovering purpose, and making a difference in the world. We are on episode 51, and today we are talking with Victor Bucarizza, who's a financial advisor, and we're going to be talking about saving, investing, money management, and how we can plan well for our future when it comes to our finances. And we realize that money can lead to most major decisions in our lives. So we want to be wise with it. We want to step into the best possible future when it comes to managing our money. And I can't think of a better person to speak to around saving, investing, and advice around those things than my mate, Victor Bucarizza. So great to have you, bro.
Thank you so much, Warren. I feel like Adam Sandler being here for your 51st date.
We forgot about all the rest, but now we're here. That's okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks so much for coming. You're a financial advisor, which is really cool. And we've actually been mates for probably 11, 12 years now.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 that we first crossed paths.
Yeah, and it was at Red Frogs. We served together doing some ministry, which is really cool with teenagers heading out to like Matric Rage.
Yeah.
And we had many late nights, guitar sessions,
I remember
all of those things.
Yeah.
Those
I remember, fun story for those who know you. Obviously, you shared a song with me at that point where you were like, this is for my future wife. And now that you're married,
there you go.
Family man, I hope that song was about her and not some other future wife.
It definitely was about her.
I remember it being a wonderful song. You were like, I don't know who it is yet.
Yeah.
But she's out there and this is for her.
There you go.
Yeah.
What a sweet moment.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, there you go. And that was cool. That was pre you getting into finance, and
Correct,
you actually started a band after that as well.
Correct. Yeah. Started a band, had a wonderful time. We bumped into each other again at Opi Kopi, if you remember. We had our unsanctioned play fight on the lawn.
Wrestling match.
Before we said hello, we already got into like a choreographed little dance thing. It was beautiful.
That was actually really funny because a bunch of people standing around. It was like late in the evening, and we just crossed paths. We hadn't seen each other yet, just by chance.
I think like it had been 2 years or something, and we just made eye contact, and we just knew.
I don't know what happened, but somehow, like telepathically, we were both like, "Let's have a fake wrestling
Everybody
match
was
right
kung
now."
fu fighting. That is what we thought. Yeah.
And everyone was watching us like, "What are these two guys doing?" It was the best.
Is that what they were thinking? I remember them saying, "These guys are geniuses and deserve a comedy award for this."
Exactly. So all that to say, you went into finance a little while after that. So tell us a bit about that journey. What made you go into finance, study finance?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I think just before I got into finance, I was studying a BCom and I was actually working towards being a teacher. Something that's always been pivotal to who I am as an individual is caring about people and the upliftment and sort of being the key to unlock people's potential. And then through a series of fortunate events, I ended up in the financial planning or the wealth management space. And again, it's still just another conduit for that same goal, that goal of just really trying to unlock whatever's inside of people and utilizing finance as a mechanism, because the financial world unfortunately touches our lives in so many ways. Most decisions we make, then there's a financial element to it. Being able to come and hopefully satisfy that element, but then open up that conversation to just so much more. And just seeing people go from one place to another is so beautiful for me. I just really enjoy that.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that's who you are. Is that we've had so many discussions about finance and stuff, and I love about you that you always have patience for my stupid questions and my like, okay,
can
wait,
hurry up? Yeah. Can we get through this?
Can we just get through this? And I love that. Like if we stop and I say, hey, just help me understand, what is this about and what is that about? And even your heart, I mean, one of the testimonies, so disclaimer for everybody that's listening is you are my financial advisor and I invest with you. And I love that because we have a good relationship. But one of the things, for example, is, when COVID hit, you actually gave me a call and you were like, hey man, just want to check that you're okay financially. Do you want to pause your debit order for a while for your investment? Do you want to, take it down? Do you want to take it up? Where are you at? How can I help you? And it just shows for me as well that you really do care about people and you want their best possible future financially.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, 100%. And to that point around the patience, I mean, patience is a virtue that I'd always be working on. But I think it's important that part of my role in that relationship of being your financial advisor is to give you the knowledge and give you the equipment and give you the tools to make the wise decisions, and not just to say, here's what's best and let's roll with it. Because if you're not at peace in your heart with the decisions that are being made, that's your money being a master over you and not the other way around, which is what we're seeking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that all of that actually shows off the heart of God. Is he wants to equip us to be able to do life well and with great wisdom. And there's so many things within our series that you can check out around those things. But I'd love to talk just for a moment around financial advisors as a whole. So I think when it comes to most people, and you think about, do you invest or do you save? I think most people would kind of think, well, I don't invest because I don't want to sit and read a newspaper about what stocks are up or down, or I'm not a finance expert. I don't know about trading or all of those things. So where does a financial advisor come into play when it comes to investing or helping people?
Well, firstly, I'll say I don't know who still reads newspapers, to be honest. But yeah, I think the view that you need to be hyperactive and you need to be on the ball and you need to know everything that's going on and listen to all the radio shows and all the podcasts and everything is a little bit misguided and a little bit overwhelming. And I think that's what drives a lot of people away. The role of a financial planner or financial advisor is to come in and be that connector between this noise and to hopefully be the poise to rhyme, for you to say, okay, here's my sounding board, here's my person, this person will guide me along the way. Last time I used the analogy of the plumber, everyone needs a toilet. You don't have to be a plumber yourself, but you'll need a plumber to look after it. I'll elevate that analogy slightly and say it's like a mechanic.
Yeah.
You could go and you could fix your car and you can keep everything moving. You might feel a little bit anxious about your ability to do that if it's just something that you do. But having an external mechanic come in and say, look, here's what we need to do and this is how this will work and this is how that'll happen. You'll feel a lot more comfortable on the roads with a car that you had a real professional assisting you in the maintenance of. And that's ultimately it. That person is the one to come and say, here's what's suitable for you. Let me rather rewind that a step. A person who comes and says, tell me about yourself, and then takes the step to say, okay, this is what's suitable for you.
Yeah. And I love that you take that step as well. Because I remember the first time I met with you, we sat down and we were talking, and the first thing you asked was, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do with your money? Where do you want to be in a couple of years? And it's exactly that, is going like, okay, I'm not going to, I think, maybe a misconception for some people is that a financial advisor is going to sit you down and go, all right, this is what you're going to do with your money. You're going to do this, that. But instead you're going, what would you like to achieve? And I'm here to serve you, to help you put it in the right place and see you get the best bang for your buck going forward. And you've got the expertise to do that, And one of my absolute heroes in the finance world is Dave Ramsey. And people have heard me talk about him before. If you are listening to this or watching and you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, please do yourself a favor and go and check him out. But he's been helping people out of debt for decades. And he's a really wealthy guy, knows a lot about finance. And he actually, on Instagram the other day, he said that, with all of his financial knowledge, he still uses a financial advisor because financial advisors are experts in that particular field. And I don't want to sit and read articles all day about what stocks are up or where to invest or whatever. And that's where a financial advisor comes in. You've got expertise to be able to do that and to be able to help you win.
Indeed. And I think in his case, there's also that element of he's quite clued up where he should be putting his money and how to do it tax efficiently and that sort of thing. And for a lot of people, that's what they need a financial planner for. But I think there's a step beyond that, which is sometimes you just need a sounding board. Sometimes you need someone to remove you out of your own way, to be that psychological barrier, I guess, so to speak, to make sure, look, everything's okay. This is natural. This is what happens in markets. This is what happens in this way and that way. And to manage your emotions around investments, because, sadly, financial or the world of finance is an emotional space because we are emotional beings. And that can be to our largest detriment if we don't have someone who's there to say, listen, let's take a breather. Let's see how we can use your emotions in a positive way to affect this. And I'm sure someone like Dave requires that because he's still a human.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all are. So I think that's more of the element that he needs, not so much the how do we structure things in the right way. I think you structure things at the onset, and then the rest of the time you just say, okay, well, let's remind ourselves why we did this at the onset and keep it going that way.
Yeah, that's actually such good advice. We recently just preached on discipline, just saying like, well, what do you want most? And then what do you need to do now to achieve what you want most? And just keep doing that consistently. And over time, you will actually get to what you want most. And I need that reminder all the time. This series has been so great for me because Galatians 6 verse 9 says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. And that word deceives means to slowly drift away from the truth. And I think financially that happens so often is, even I'll sit down with you and go, okay, bro, here are my goals financially. This is where I'd like to invest, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's so easy for me over a year or two to just drift from that and start spending money and being unwise, and then to go, I need a reminder. Why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
Come back to it. So it's so helpful to have.
Yeah, and a couple things to unpack there. So you shared a little bit about a man reaps what he sows, and I think there's one important element there is you sow it, the next day you don't come and yell at the soil because there's no plant in front of you. That's the that's the truth of it, is you need to give it time, you need
Absolutely.
to water and that sort of thing. And to your point of slow deviation, we last time I think we spoke a little bit about trying to automate things as best as possible, so that you don't have to be motivated every single day to wake up and do the right financial things. You put the tools in place so that you were motivated day one when you put those tools in place, but you can be demotivated the rest of the time. But debit orders will run, things will continue. That consistency can be done on your behalf. You don't have to be as fired up as you were when you put things together. You just have to be fired up at that point in time.
Fired up enough to make a decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's purely it. And then sort of let the things run.
Brilliant, bro. So in your opinion, what are some helpful things for those that are listening, some helpful things to look out for when choosing a financial advisor? Because it is, people work hard for their money. I think most people, if they're to associate an emotion with finances, would associate fear and unsure about the future. And so when it comes to trusting somebody else with your hard-earned money, what are some helpful tools that you would say, like, hey, think about this when you pick a financial advisor?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely go out and meet more than one person. You don't have to be incumbent or subject to the first person that you meet with. Trust your gut. If you have great rapport with a person, because you're going to be spending a lot of time, not necessarily a lot of time, but over a long period of time, you'll be in constant communication with this person. You'll be building a relationship, someone that you get along with. I think it's quite an important thing to start with, someone that you really feel cares for you and looks after you. From a technical perspective, I'm quite fond of independent advisors. So what that means is they're not linked to one specific provider. And basically what that means to me is they can look after you and they can see what's best for you, and not, oh, well, this is all I can offer you, so that's what you're going to get, sort of thing.
So it's basically, just to help people there, it's basically saying, if we had to name a couple of giants in the industry in South Africa, it's like Investec, Alan Gray, Stanlib, those types of places. Is in your opinion, it's actually an advantage to have someone that works with those packages, but doesn't necessarily work for that company.
For one specifically.
One.
Correct. Yeah. So again, to list a few names, Sanlam, Discovery, Liberty, Old Mutual, they all have what we call tied advisors, that they just work for Discovery, they just work for Liberty, and that can be perfectly fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm of the view that you'd rather have someone who can work with all of them. They have the same product suite across the board, they have the same options and solutions available, but they can see what is suitable for you. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so in terms of fees and stuff, so I mean, that's one of the elephants in the room is, some people go like, well, I'm going to invest my money, but how dare you charge me a fee for that? And I've got the view of exactly what you're saying around a mechanic is going, well, I don't have the expertise to fix my car in all sorts of ways. Maybe I could change my brakes. But as soon as something else happens, I'm like, I'm happy to pay for expertise in that area. And I think it's the same with finances is, I pay for expertise in that area, but there are some fee structures that can sometimes be a bit scary at first,
non-client-centric, I think is the way I'd word it. And look, the way financial planning is being remunerated is an evolving space. We're right in the middle of this exciting evolution in it. If we look historically, oftentimes, and this is why we not super fond of the tied advisors, is products were built around how can we just remunerate the advisor upfront.
What does remunerate mean?
Remunerate to pay. Yeah. Okay, so basically just get the money, the commission or whatever it be. How can we give them a whole bunch of money upfront and then they never have to go see you again? They've got their money and they can move on. And that creates sort of a sales environment where it's not about me actually building a relationship with you. It's about me coming and selling a product to you. Whether you need it or not, I'm going to sell this product to you and I'm going to get a big fat paycheck and then run away. Well, not necessarily run away, but there's no incentive to have to be there. Ongoing advice fees are more the norm now, where it's, look, I'm not going to get a huge chunk up front, but over a period of time, as our relationship persists and as your funds grow in value, hopefully they do, I'll be taking a percentage of that, and that's how the payment will be received. Some people are tending towards a fee-based model, where it's upfront. You'll sit and say, listen, this is what we're going to do, and here's what's important, and here's a once-off fee. You're going to pay it out of your bank account. It's just an invoice like you would with a lawyer. It's going to cost X amount of money. You pay me that, and then if you need to see me again, I'll bill you again for that time, but if you're not seeing me, you're not going to get billed. And it really, in my view, it's what works for you and what works for the solution or the situation you're trying to solve around. Yeah. But to just put that caveat, that warning is, if there is a huge upfront fee for some sort of investment product or something to that nature, it's probably a yellow flag. You should take a look what that's about, and if that's something you could change or get out of in the future, because typically what comes along with these huge upfront fees is, well, the inability to move yourself out of that in the future, and flexibility is something you want from your finances.
Yeah, and I think just to pick up on the thread here, that's I think will be helpful for people, is there is no one size fits all solution for everybody when it comes to finance, but there are some really helpful principles in place. And so there it is, just, when you meet with a person, how's your relationship? Do they feel like they're just trying to sell you a product, or do they feel like they actually want to help you achieve a goal? One of the things I love about our relationship is as I grow financially, you get more money. So as I win, you win. Because there's a percentage that comes out of it. And so then I go, man, personally, that's what works for me, because then I go, you want my best interest because it's also in your best interest. And so we win together. So those things are very helpful. But I love what you said is look around. So you don't need to invest with the first person you meet, but meet with a couple people and then make a decision and say, I'd actually feel like I'd like to go this way.
Yeah, and ask them questions. Ask them, how frequently do we need to meet? How frequently can you meet with me? What is my expectation? What should my expectation be around what you're going to discuss when we meet again? That sort of thing. If someone says, look, I don't really need to meet you for a number of years. You call me, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you just hate people and you don't want someone calling you every 6 months or whatever it be. But if you're someone who will feel a little bit anxious, maybe you need someone who's a little bit more high touch, and just communicate that effectively up front and see what works for you and find that relationship. You're 50% of that relationship. Act like it. Come in and say, well, this is what I want. These are my boundaries. This is what I want to get out of this relationship.
That's brilliant, man. So I want to quickly touch on something, and I don't want to be here for too long, but there's some buzzwords around trading or Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and some people might know what that means, and others might have just heard of it. But I think sometimes trading and cryptocurrencies and all those things can sometimes be confused with more of a traditional take on investing. Right. And so what is the difference between the two?
Well, firstly, let me list the best NFTs right now. So I think, there's a distinction, like you share, between investing and trading. Investing, in my view, broadly speaking, is something that you don't need to do except for that one time. You don't have to go look at it. You can let it do its thing, and it will continue to grow and reap rewards for you.
So you put your money in and you forget about
the seed, let the rain fall. Trading is a day-to-day thing. Trading is something that you're actively going and you're doing things. It's like a job. It's something that you want to do. And when we're trying to build wealth, we're trying to have you not have to do things for things to happen, so to speak.
Let your money work for itself.
Exactly. So that I think is the major distinction between investing and trading. When you talk about cryptos and that sort of thing, I mean, it's a very interesting space. It's not the first time something has come about and disrupted the world and created a large shift or a transfer of wealth. Just before we were chatting, I was telling you about the tulip craze in the Netherlands some time ago, where the price of tulips just went astronomically high. And these things present themselves from time to time, whether that was a good or bad thing, or it was true or not, it did transfer some wealth from some people to another. Ultimately, I'm of the view that when you're investing, you should be buying something that is generating some sort of good or service that society uses and benefits from, will create cash flows, and you as an owner of that ultimately get those cash flows. For example, if you own Colgate shares, between the two of us, I can say at least one of us brushed our teeth this morning. I'm hoping both. And we probably used Colgate. So we spent a little bit of money on Colgate, as did millions of other people today. And if we own a Colgate share, well, we get a tiny, tiny, tiny little fraction of that. When it comes to things like cryptocurrencies, it's maybe a little bit more difficult to see the path towards those cash flows. So it's great if you want to do it as a hobby and have some fun. I wouldn't bank my family's wealth or my house on it, or my retirement on it, or anything like that. That's my personal view. But ultimately, I think if you want to have a nice, sturdy, lower risk, more probability of success, you want to back things that are a little bit more traditional, and I'm an innovator by nature, so saying traditional is like a dirty word in my mouth, but yes.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, and I think that's helpful for people to know is, trading and investing are two different things. And so what we are talking about here today is more of the approach of like a farming principle, is I put some money in the ground and it's hopefully put in the right place, which is where you come in to go, these are the right places to put this money into. We'll take care of that. And then you leave it. And over time, it will grow. Yeah. And then you come back, and that's an important thing. And when it comes to investing, many people say, and you were saying earlier as well, is one of the most important things is time. Just being consistent and leaving it for time. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about here, is the clickety-clack. Over time, you forget about it, it just keeps growing. That's exactly and it'll benefit you.
Time is the thing that especially young people have, obviously, that is greater than Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Elon Musk, or whatever, some elderly, I don't want to say too old, people have is that time and the ability for time to work. And I shared last time, I think, you quoted me, you told me that what I shared last time is having time is of more value than having a great income when you're young. Having that time and getting it invested and saying, great, this is now future Victor, or future Warren, or future myself's money, and I'm going to leave it for them.
I actually love what you said last time as well. You explained between debt and saving, and you said debt is basically borrowing from your future self, but with interest. You got to pay the interest. Yeah. And saving is giving to your future self, and also with interest.
Correct.
So either way, interest is either working for or against you.
Correct.
And it's such a good thing to pay off your debt, get out of that place, and then to go, now I really want to start investing into my future, whether that's saving or investing.
Yeah. There is a little bit of nuance around that. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but you want to pay off that expensive debt. Something like a house, if you're getting like prime minus 1% or something, that's not necessarily as expensive as your clothing account where you're paying 24% interest. 100%. So being mindful of paying off that expensive debt especially is useful.
Yeah, and that's what I would say most people agree with is, like a Dave Ramsey, for example, would say, pay off all of your consumer debt, leave the house for now, start investing, and then try and pay that house off as quick as you can over time. Yeah. But all that to say, let's come back to some savings just quickly. So one of the things that has absolutely changed my life is learning to save for different reasons. And so I don't have just a general savings where all the money goes and I just use whatever, whenever, whatever happens. But actually, what I love with my bank is I've got a couple of savings accounts that they actually offer me for free, which is great. So that's actually why I chose my bank in particular. And there I've got a savings account for emergency fund, which is basically if my car breaks down or we have a medical bill that pops up or whatever. I've got one for fun money, which I can actually allocate certain money every single month to go, this is guilt-free spending. If I want to buy a soccer jersey, I can, or whatever. And then I've got some money for studies because I'm studying at the moment. So then putting some money towards that. And it just helps me to allocate different things for different goals. And so when it comes to savings, things like emergency funds or money that you need to get immediately, what type of accounts would you recommend?
Right. So when we talk about saving, short-term emergency, that's that sort of space, exactly like what you're looking at, something that is easily accessible, like a bank account, where you don't have to wait 32 days, you don't have to give me a call and wait 7 days for things to pay out or anything like that. That immediate accessibility is crucial because, especially in the case of something like an emergency fund, if an emergency comes up, you're probably a little bit shaken already. You don't want to have to sit and worry and have more stress thinking, but it's going to take 7 days and sit for 7 days with anxiety.
Or maybe even have to make debt because you can't get the money.
Correct. So that short-term accessibility is the way to go. I wouldn't get too bogged down on what interest rate you're receiving there, whatever it be, because that's not money that you're really trying to grow and expand exponentially. You just want that to be there. It's a cushion. It's shock absorbers. You want it to be there for when that need presents itself. So using your bank accounts or savings pockets within that is crucial, or not as crucial, is ideal. What is crucial, though, is that you keep it separate to your normal transactional day-to-day bank account, because if you don't give money a place to go, it's going to grow legs of its own and it's going to find a place. So another thing that, just as a side note, some people have done, which I find sometimes quite useful, is if you have a bond on a house, you have an access bond that you can overpay and you can access that whenever you want. Sometimes the interest rate that you receive there is a little bit better than you would in your bank account. So some people have left a portion of emergency savings or something like that in that there as sort of an interest-free investment. But that's something with a little bit more nuance that people would need to discuss with their planner to get more understanding around.
Yeah, so then for most people that want to save for something and need to access that money, quickly, just put it in your normal bank savings. Don't worry too much about interest because I think sometimes you get, overwhelmed with so many options and like, do I put it in this or that? Or just don't overthink it. Put it in your bank.
Can I access this when I need it? Yes, I can. Is
Done.
there interest applicable? Don't even care what the number is. Yes, okay, go for it. And I think you raise a great point around compartmentalizing your different goals. And that's a huge thing. Attaching a goal to your money, I think, is super useful from a psychological perspective and from a how do we build this investment perspective. Your goal of an emergency fund or studying, which is happening now, versus your goal of retirement or going on holiday in 5 years' time. How you would invest those funds is very different. And typically, the time horizon that you have would dictate how you invest that. So retirement is far away, so we can afford to take on a little bit of volatility, a little bit up and down in something like equities. But emergency fund, we don't know when that's going to happen. So we want something with no volatility, something like a money market fund. That's the way to go. And so that can inform the decision. So everything starts, in my view, from goal setting. Set out what we want the potential roadmap to look like, and then we'll build the map and we'll get the compass along the way to navigate that.
I love that, and that's what we've been looking at as well. Is we've realized actually if we don't tell our money where to go, our money will just go all over the place. Zig Ziglar says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every single time.
That's it. And
so we want to say every single rand that we earn, we want to put it in a particular place with intentionality, knowing what our future holds and what we'd love to see.
Yeah.
And so to come back to that, you spoke about goals. So say, for example, we've got a few different ways that we use our money. One is we need the money right now. So that needs to be accessed at any moment. So that's emergency, like we spoke about. Then let's talk, for example, my little girl is going to school in 5 years from now, and I want to start saving for her school fees. But that's more of a longer term saving. So let's say, within 5 years, where would I then put that type of money?
Yeah.
Would it still just be in my normal savings, or is there a better place to put that?
So that's a really interesting goal, because it starts in 5 years, but then there's 12 years of paying out from that goal. So that goal, is it a 5-year goal or is it a 17-year goal?
Yeah.
The truth is it's both. And so you can build a more complicated plan for that. But basically, what is that sort of medium-term time frame? And that's when you'd want to venture out into something more like, and your planner would guide you around this, but an asset class that is more like bonds, or an asset class that is multi-asset. So using a little bit of bonds, a little bit of equity, a balance fund, something like that. These have more medium-term time horizons to them. And then the long-term, we deal more with equities and that sort of thing. And that's not to say that you can't buy an equity for a year, but it's to say that the probability of you having success with that equity, with owning equity investments, equity being shares and stocks, same thing, is higher when it's sort of a 7+ year time horizon. Something like bonds, which is just government or corporate bonds, you don't have to really know exactly what they are, but the point is this: how they work is, a 3 to 5 year time horizon is probably a good sweet spot to know that this will get me the success that this bond is supposed to achieve. But a planner would help you
to pick those things.
Exactly, put that together and build it for you.
To come back before all the detail and stuff, because I think what was really helpful in one of our discussions as well is we spoke about high risk versus low risk. So the word risk, when it comes to putting my money somewhere, freaks me out a little bit. And I think, for most people, they don't want something that's risky. They want something that's dependable and sturdy as they go forward. So I've come to learn that word risk doesn't mean what I think it means. And so can you quickly explain in very simple terms, what is a low risk? Where do you use it? What is a high risk and where do you use it?
So again, it's all time relative. Low risk in a short period of time is something like a money market, because I know with pretty much certainty that the bank is giving me 4% interest. That is what I'm going to get. Equities, again, shares, stocks, all the same thing. I have no idea where they're going to be in a year's time. But I do know in 15 years' time that people are probably still going to be brushing their teeth with Colgate. And so my Colgate shares are potentially going to do quite well, or still be in a good space. And they will hopefully, and they have historically, so that this trend will hopefully continue, beat inflation. Whereas in a 15-year time horizon, my money market is probably actually very risky because it might not beat inflation. If I'm just getting this 4% interest and inflation is 5%, I'm actually losing money as time persists. So risk is a relative to the time horizon you're working with term. But typically in investments, and I don't quite like it, but we use volatility as a proxy for risk. So how sort of up and down is this roller coaster ride going to be? Is it a smooth little, gentle little push down a road, or is it this crazy loop-de-loop-de roller coaster? That's the volatility that we use as a proxy. If I were to box them out slightly, cash, i.e. money market, pretty much no volatility. Bonds, a little bit of volatility. Property and equities, a lot of volatility. But in the long term, that's what you want to hold.
And so also to pull it back to simplicity for people as well is, low risk. It means that the roller coaster is going to be less bumpy, but it's
not
be
even
more
a roller
consistent.
coaster. You're sitting on a city bus there, and it's just gently cruising.
It's just going. And so that means when I want to access the money, it's probably going to be worth what I think it's going to be worth.
Yeah. Very predictable.
So short term, that's cool. But then higher risk. So say, for example, I'm saving for something 15 or 10 years from now or whatever. That roller coaster might be a bit more up and down. So the reason you don't want to get out early is because it could be on a down.
You're quoting Dave Ramsey again, aren't you?
There you go. So it could be on a down. But if you leave it, that'll actually perform better. So you'll make more money over a longer period of time with high risk. It's not to say it's more risky.
Yeah, risk is not quite the term, but a little bit more volatility, more growth orientation.
There you go.
If you look at empirically looking backwards through history, over a long enough timeline, equities just always outperform. That's it. They just keep on outperforming because, if I can either start a business and run a business, or I can put money in the bank. Well, I'm only going to run the business if I can do better than I could putting my money in the bank. So that's what businesses are. They outperform what I could get without any risk involved. I'm going to take on a little bit of risk, volatility, to outperform this thing. So
Awesome.
I hope that's
I hope that's helpful
things.
for people. So then just a quick thing around investing. So what are some helpful things for me to decide before I invest? So in terms of, we've spoken about goals. So saying, as we've been speaking about, like, what do I want most in life? What are the goals in life? What are some other things that are helpful for me to decide before I invest?
Yeah, correct. So your goals are definitely a determining factor. Importantly, as we've touched on previously, is, before I start becoming an investor, I might want to get rid of my debt.
Yes.
And that is a key point to start at is analyzing, do I have some debt here? Do I have some issues that I'm working with? And once I've squashed or gotten rid of that expensive debt, that debt that's really holding me back, that's anchoring me, then I'm free to get investing. And the truth is the right steps to take are give someone a call, a financial planner, reach out, ask in your circle of friends and family who they've worked with, and if they're confident in that person's abilities. And then you can just start and just get going and try and automate it as much as possible, set up debit orders or whatever it be, so you don't have to do anything once you've decided this is what my plan is. And that plan can change. You're not incumbent to what that was. You're not tied to it, but having a nice flexible plan that allows you to navigate, weave in and out, that's the way to go. So start with, do I have any debt that I need to take care of? Do I have my goals set out, and how do I set those goals up and invest according to those goals so that I know the timeline, I know how I want my planner to allocate because of these timelines, and then try and keep as much flexibility as possible. But there's nuance that comes in there around tax planning and all that jazz, but that's for...
But an advisor can help you
correct.
with that.
That's exactly it. That's it. Yeah, you just need to drive the car. You let them work on it. You let them be the mechanic.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's been really helpful just to take a look at those different things. And one of the things that I wanted to say this as well. So one of the things that really opened my mind to investing, and I will actually never forget this moment. We sat down the first time, and we were a bit younger then, and
we're always a bit younger then.
We're always a bit younger then.
When you're referring to
there
the past, we were always younger then.
There's some wisdom right there from Victor Bucarizza. You can quote that one. And so I remember sitting down with you at the coffee shop, and we had a discussion about what are some goals, and then you went away and you said, okay, I'll calculate what this could be worth in 15 years or 20 years or whatever. And so I was in a position then where I thought, if I'm putting this little bit of money away every month, it's not really going to make any difference. Is it even worth investing? And I'll never forget you coming back and going, okay, bro, if you invest this little amount of money consistently over the next however many years, 15, 20, and you actually gave me a plan for that, this is what it could be worth in 5 years. This is what it could be worth in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Not saying that it will be exactly that, but just to give you an idea of what it could be worth. And I remember sitting there going, are you kidding? Like, all these little bits of money could add up to that eventually. That's amazing. Yeah. And so it opened my mind to go, actually, we have a lot more opportunity than we think. And that's what I love, again, how scripture talks about finances oftentimes when it comes to farming, is these are seeds, and they've got the potential to grow, but when we put them in the right place. Yeah. And so what are some helpful things, for an everyday person to go, well, I could maybe afford to invest 500 Rand a month. I could afford to invest 10,000 Rand a month. Is there a place that people can go to look at what it could be worth if they did choose to invest?
Just before I answer that question, I'll just comment saying a lot of times people think you need to have a lot of money to be an investor.
Yeah.
The thing is, you need to put a lot of small amounts of money to have a lot of money. So it's got to start with those small amounts. Everyone had to start with those small amounts.
Yeah.
So where can people go? I mean, there's a plethora of calculators online through all the major providers where you can just put in, I know you've shared that you love the Alan Gray calculator.
I do love the Alan Gray calculator. Yeah, it's so simple.
Yeah, exactly. And just to understand what these numbers could look like and put some assumptions in there. Well, what if the return rate is this? What if I invest 500 Rand extra, whatever it be? And that is, for your case, it was clearly a motivating tool to say, well, this is great. Like, I can see what this translates to in the long period of time. So there's tons of things online that people can go just access. If you Google compound interest calculator, something like that, you put in 20 years, 25 years. It's great with retirement calculations because you have a long timeline, and time, that is the real thing you're investing in, is how long can I be an investor? That will drive my success, not necessarily how much I put in. I mean, yes, it will obviously influence, but how long I can be an investor, that I have a lot of control over. I get to choose how long I'm an investor for. And that is going to be a huge determining factor.
Yeah, and I actually want to share this joke that I saw the other day. So I think it popped up on my YouTube or something, but there's like a little clip from a show called Futurama.
Of course.
And the guide, if you don't know like the story of the show, it's basically, a guy that I think he gets frozen or something. I haven't watched much of it. But
a normal day man, and then
so anyway, he gets frozen, and say it's like 2,000 years in the future, and he wakes up, so something like that, and then he decides, let me go to my bank and see if there's any money there. And then when he speaks to the teller, he's like, oh, I had like 27 cents in my account 2,000 years ago. And she's like, oh, sir, well, guess what, you've got like billions of dollars because of that. And I laughed so hard at it because I'm like, I can't actually think of a better illustration to go like, he had 20 something cents, 2,000 years later he had billions. And I know people don't live 2,000 years, but time is such a massive influence when it comes to our investments,
Yeah, it is. If you had infinite time, inevitably you'll be successful financially. That's just the truth of it. And just to that point, also, I guess a funny story is someone did a test on backdating brokerages from America and that sort of thing. And they found that the best performing accounts that they held on their brokerage were by those dead clients or by dead clients, just because those people weren't doing anything. They had just bought some good investments
and they just left it.
Unfortunately, had passed away, or they had lost their password, so no one had access to it. And these investments, through the thick and the thin of it, through the ups and the downs, they didn't do anything, and these investments had outperformed. So having time and being consistent with your inputs and not really worrying about being hyperactive, that's always going to breed success.
Love that. So I think this has been helpful. I really trust it's been helpful for you guys as well. And it's motivated you to maybe reach out to a financial advisor and to realize that we have more options that we think, or than we think when it comes to our finances. Saving for short-term goals, saving for other goals like potentially university fees or whatever, and even saving for retirement are all very possible if we choose to be consistent over time. And I love what Victor said. If we choose to kind of automate our decision, to just say, I'm going to make a wise choice now, and I'm just going to be consistent in letting that debit order run over time.
It's like you only have to pay for the gym fee. You don't have to go to the gym and lift the weights. You're just going to get the benefit. Isn't that the greatest gym contract ever? You just have to pay for the fee.
That's investing, people.
And you'll get abs out of nowhere.
I love that.
That's pretty much what it is.
Brilliant. Yeah. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. And so thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to encourage you to subscribe and check out more conversations as we continue to learn more about knowing God, finding freedom, discovering our purpose, and making a difference in the world. Hope you have a great week.